Have you ever noticed someone who seems completely at ease with themselves, no matter what's happening around them? They don't need to be the loudest voice in the room to be heard, and they don't seek approval for their choices. This isn't arrogance or aloofness. It's something far more powerful and deeply rooted. It's a quiet assurance that comes from within, a foundation so solid that external praise or criticism simply doesn't shake it. This is silent confidence, and while it might seem like a rare gift, it's actually a quality that was carefully cultivated by some of history's most remarkable figures through a philosophy designed for the challenges of real life. This ancient system of thought, practiced by everyone from Roman emperors to the enslaved, offers us a timeless toolkit for building that very same unshakable inner strength. It teaches that true confidence isn't about what you display to the world, but what you build within yourself, a resilient core that remains steady when everything else is in flux. This philosophy is Stoicism, and its principles are more relevant today than ever before. In a world that constantly shouts for our attention and demands external validation through likes, titles, and possessions, the Stoic path offers a radical alternative, a journey inward to discover a source of power that is entirely your own, a confidence that is silent not because it has nothing to say, but because it doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. It's the quiet understanding that you have the resources to handle whatever comes your way, an inner citadel that no outside force can breach. This isn't about suppressing your personality or becoming emotionally detached. It's about developing a profound self-reliance that allows you to engage with the world from a place of strength and clarity, rather than fear and insecurity. It's the kind of confidence that allows for quiet listening, thoughtful action, and genuine connection. And the most empowering part, this isn't a mystical secret reserved for a chosen few. The Stoics laid out a practical, daily path to achieve it, a series of mental and behavioral exercises designed to forge character and resilience. Over the course of this exploration, we will walk that path together, uncovering 25 transformative daily habits drawn directly from Stoic wisdom. Each one is a stepping stone, a deliberate practice to help you systematically build that quiet, powerful presence from the inside out. This is your invitation to begin a journey that has changed countless lives across centuries, a journey away from seeking validation and towards embodying a confidence that speaks volumes even in complete silence. Our journey into these daily Stoic habits begins with one that might seem surprising or even unsettling at first, but it was considered absolutely fundamental by the Stoics themselves. This is the practice of morning meditation on mortality, known by its Latin name, memento mori, which translates to remember you must die. Now, before you dismiss this as morbid or pessimistic, it's crucial to understand the profound and liberating purpose behind this ancient exercise. The Stoics weren't dwelling on death to become fearful or sad. They were doing it to become intensely, vibrantly alive. By consciously remembering the finite nature of our existence each morning, we perform a powerful mental reset that instantly clears away the fog of trivial worries and social anxieties. Think about waking up and immediately feeling a low-level stress about a critical comment you received online, or a nervousness about an upcoming meeting where you'll be judged. Now imagine starting that same day by quietly reminding yourself, I am mortal. My time here is limited and incredibly valuable. That single thought acts like a filter, separating what is truly significant from what is merely noisy. The opinion of a casual acquaintance suddenly loses its weight. The possibility of a minor social embarrassment ceases to be terrifying. Why? Because you have just measured those temporary concerns against the ultimate scale of your own life's brevity, and they have been revealed for what they are, insignificant. This practice builds silent confidence because it roots your sense of self in something far deeper and more stable than the ever-changing opinions of others. When you operate from the unshakable knowledge that your time is your most precious, non-renewable resource, you stop giving it away so cheaply. You become more selective about the battles you choose to fight, the conversations you invest in, and the people you seek to impress. This isn't about becoming callous, it's about becoming clear. That clarity is the bedrock of silent confidence. A person who knows what truly matters to them doesn't need to constantly announce their values or defend their choices. They simply live them. Their confidence comes from the alignment between their actions and their deeply held priorities, priorities that are sharpened every single morning by this simple, profound meditation. So tomorrow, before you check your phone or get swept into the day's demands, take just a moment of quiet. Remember the impermanent nature of all things, including yourself. Let that thought wash over you not as a threat, but as a gentle, urgent reminder to live this one day with purpose, courage, and a quiet mind, free from the need to perform for an audience that, in the grand scheme of your life, doesn't really matter. After grounding yourself in the reality of life's impermanence, the next Stoic habit builds directly upon that foundation by actively preparing your mind for the inevitable bumps and obstacles of the day ahead. This practice is known as premeditatio malorum, which translates to the premeditation of evils, but don't let the starkness of that translation mislead you. This isn't an exercise in pessimism or fearful worrying. It's a deliberate and empowering form of mental rehearsal, a way to inoculate yourself against the shock and frustration of life's interruptions. The core idea is simple yet profound. You take a few quiet moments, perhaps right after your morning reflection, to consciously envision the specific challenges, setbacks, or losses you might encounter. You aren't doing this to manifest bad luck or to make yourself anxious. You are doing it to rob those potential future events of their power to destabilize you when they actually occur. Imagine you have an important presentation at work. Instead of just hoping it goes perfectly, you spend a minute visualizing what could go wrong. The projector might malfunction. You could lose your train of thought. Someone might ask a question you can't immediately answer. By walking through these scenarios in your mind, you accomplish two crucial things. First, you begin to problem solve in advance. You think, if the projector fails, I have my notes printed and I can speak without the slides. This builds a quiet assurance because you've already developed a contingency plan. The second, and perhaps more important outcome, is that you emotionally detach from the need for everything to go exactly according to your script. When you've already accepted that things could go wrong, their occurrence is no longer a devastating surprise but a manageable event that you are psychologically prepared for. This practice also has a beautiful secondary benefit. It dramatically enhances your appreciation for the present. By vividly imagining the loss of things you take for granted, your health, your job, the presence of a loved one, you suddenly see them with fresh eyes. That first sip of morning coffee becomes a gift, not just a routine. The simple fact that your car starts becomes a small victory. This daily habit cultivates a deep-seated gratitude that isn't dependent on external circumstances. Your confidence grows from this inner reservoir of appreciation and preparedness. You stop relying on the world to be easy and predictable for you to feel okay. Instead, you develop the unshakable knowledge that you have the mental fortitude to handle difficulty. This is the essence of silent confidence. It's the calm demeanor of a person who, when a problem arises, doesn't panic or complain, but simply begins implementing solutions they have, in some way, already considered. They aren't caught off guard by life's inherent unpredictability because they have a mind trained to expect it and to see obstacles not as impassable walls, but as hurdles they've already practiced jumping in their imagination. This Stoic rehearsal transforms potential future anxieties into present-moment capabilities, fostering a quiet strength that allows you to move through your day with a steady composure, no matter what unfolds. Building on that foundation of mental preparedness, the third daily habit shifts our focus from what might happen to how we will choose to show up, no matter what happens. This is the practice of setting your morning intentions through the lens of the Stoic dichotomy of control. After you've contemplated life's impermanence and rehearsed potential challenges, you now take the crucial step of defining your own inner compass for the day ahead. The dichotomy of control is one of the most powerful and practical tools in all of Stoicism. It's a simple sorting mechanism for your mind, dividing everything in existence into just two categories: the things that are within your control and the things that are not. As the philosopher Epictetus, who began his life as a slave, so powerfully stated, our own opinions, impulses, desires, and aversions are within our control. Essentially, our internal world, our character, our judgments, our intentions, everything else, our reputation, our wealth, our health, the actions of other people, even the outcomes of our own best efforts, these are not fully within our control. They belong to the realm of externals. Most of our daily anxiety and frustration springs from a fundamental confusion between these two categories. We exhaust ourselves trying to control other people's opinions. We tie our self-worth to a promotion we may or may not get. And we allow a traffic jam to ruin our morning because we've mistakenly believed that the flow of traffic is something we should be able to command. The morning intention setting habit is your daily recalibration against this confusion. So, how does this work in practice? Before you dive into your emails or your to-do list, you find a quiet moment and ask yourself a version of these Stoic questions. What are the core values I want to guide my actions today? What qualities of character do I wish to embody? What is within my complete control today? Your answers become your intentional anchor. You might set an intention like, today I will act with courage and speak with honesty. Or, my focus will be on doing my work to the best of my ability with integrity. Or even, I will practice patience and kindness in all my interactions. Notice what you are not intending. You are not intending to get the deal, because that outcome depends on the client, the market, and countless other variables you can't control. You are not intending to make everyone like you, because the feelings of others are squarely in the external category. Instead, you are setting your intention on your own effort, your own virtue, your own choices. This creates a profound shift in where you place your sense of success. If your intention was to act with courage and you spoke your truth in a difficult meeting, you have already succeeded, regardless of whether your idea was accepted. If your intention was to do your best work and you gave it your full focus, you have already won the day, even if the project faces unexpected delays. This is what builds silent confidence. Your self-esteem becomes untethered from the unpredictable and often fickle external world. It becomes anchored to something you can reliably govern, your own will. You no longer need to anxiously seek validation through results because your primary goal was always the quality of your attempt. This doesn't mean you become passive or stop caring about outcomes. Of course, you prefer the deal to close or the project to succeed, but your emotional stability and your core confidence are no longer held hostage by those preferences. You can engage fully, work hard, and then release the outcome with a sense of equanimity. A person who practices this daily walks through the world with a different kind of presence. They are focused, engaged, and yet strangely undisturbed by the chaos around them. Their confidence is silent because it isn't broadcasting its achievements, it's radiating from a deep internal alignment. They know who they are and what they stand for, and that self-knowledge, set each morning with clear intention, becomes the unshakable ground they walk on all day long. And so we arrive at the natural counterpart to our morning rituals, a practice that brings the day full circle in a way that solidifies all the work we've done. After setting intentions with the dichotomy of control and navigating the day's events with mental preparedness, the Stoics prescribed a vital closing habit, the evening examination, or in Latin, animus nocturna. This isn't merely writing in a diary about what you did. It's a structured, honest audit of your own character in action. Picture this: the day is done, the noise has faded, and you have a quiet moment with your journal. The goal here is not to berate yourself for every misstep, but to calmly and objectively review your behavior against the intentions you set that very morning. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, described this practice as asking his soul a series of probing questions. What ailment of yours have you cured today? What failing have you resisted? In what aspect are you better? This transforms journaling from a simple log of events into a powerful engine for growth. It's where the theoretical philosophy of the morning meets the practical reality of your day, and where silent confidence is truly forged through unflinching self-awareness. Let's break down how to approach this. You might start by asking, where did I act in alignment with my values today? Perhaps you practiced patience with a frustrating colleague when you normally would have snapped. Acknowledge that victory. This is crucial because we often overlook our successes while magnifying our failures. Recognizing where you applied courage, justice, or temperance reinforces those neural pathways and builds the evidence you need to trust yourself. Then, with the same calm detachment, you turn to the more challenging part. Where did I fall short? Where did I let an external event control my internal state? Maybe you lost your composure in traffic, or you sought validation by boasting about an accomplishment, or you avoided a difficult conversation out of fear. The key here is to observe these moments without the storm of self-judgment. The Stoic aim is progress, not perfection. View your misstep as a philosopher would as data. You've just identified a specific area where your reasoning was hijacked by a passion, a place where your practice can be sharpened tomorrow. This objective analysis is what separates destructive self-criticism from constructive self-correction. The former shatters confidence, the latter builds it on a foundation of honesty. When you make this evening review a daily ritual, something profound begins to happen. You stop fearing your own flaws because you are in a constant, gentle dialogue with them. You become your own most insightful coach, not your harshest critic. This process cultivates a deep and authentic confidence that has nothing to do with a perfect track record and everything to do with your unwavering commitment to self-understanding and improvement. You no longer need to pretend you have it all figured out because you are actively and visibly figuring it out every single day. This honest engagement with your own humanity, celebrating the small wins, learning from the stumbles without being defined by them, creates a self-assurance that is quiet, earned, and completely unshakable. It's the confidence of knowing you are on a deliberate path of becoming, and that each evening's reflection is another deliberate step forward. Now, having established a rhythm of morning preparation and evening reflection, we turn to a practice that operates in the real-time, high-speed moments of our daily interactions. This is the fifth habit, cultivating a mindful response delay. It's the deliberate insertion of a pause, a conscious gap between the stimulus you receive and the response you give. In our hyper-connected world, where a knee-jerk reply is just a tap away and social friction can feel intensely personal, this small space you create becomes a sanctuary for your reason. The Stoics understood that our first impulse is rarely our best one. It's often a raw, unrefined reaction born from ego, fear, or a desire for immediate gratification. A person who is easily provoked, who snaps back in anger or shrinks in immediate embarrassment, broadcasts a fragility, a confidence that is entirely dependent on everything going smoothly. In stark contrast, a person who can receive a criticism, an insult, or a piece of bad news and simply pause exudes a different kind of power entirely. This composed silence is not a void, it is a space filled with immense self-possession. It communicates without a single word, I am considering this. My equilibrium is not so easily disrupted. I am the one who will decide how to act. This is the very essence of silent confidence in motion. So, how do we build this critical pause into our nervous system's wiring? It begins with recognizing the trigger points. For many of us, the flash of heat from a critical email, the dismissive tone from a partner, or the sudden change of plans that ruins our schedule can feel like an immediate call to action. The old, untrained instinct is to fire back, to defend, to correct the external world instantly to make the uncomfortable feeling go away. The Stoic habit is to intercept that instinct. The moment you feel that surge of emotion, whether it's anger, hurt, or anxiety, you make a conscious choice to do nothing. You might take a single, deep breath. You might count silently to 5. You might even physically remove yourself by saying, "I need a moment to think about that." This tiny delay is where your power resides. In that brief window, you shift the governing authority of your actions from the impulsive, emotional part of your brain to the rational, reasoning part. You give yourself a chance to apply the very principles you contemplated in the morning. You can ask yourself Stoic questions. Is this event within my control? What would a wise and virtuous person do here? Is my desired reaction aligned with my core values, or is it just my wounded pride lashing out? Consider a practical scenario. A coworker publicly questions your contribution to a project in a meeting. The immediate, impulsive reaction is one of humiliation and defensiveness. You might feel a powerful urge to interrupt, to list your accomplishments, to put them in their place, to reclaim your social standing. But if you have practiced this habit, you catch that wave of emotion before it crashes. You pause, you feel the heat in your face, but you do not speak. In that silence, your reasoning mind engages. You realize that your coworker's opinion is an external, outside your complete control. Your character, however, is within your control. You can choose to respond with grace and facts, not venom. You might decide that the most confident and effective response is not to engage in a public squabble, but to simply say, "I appreciate the feedback." Let's discuss the specifics one after the meeting to ensure we're aligned. This response, born from a pause, completely de-escalates the situation and positions you as the composed, professional adult in the room. Your silent confidence disarms the provocation because you refuse to play the game on its terms. You governed your internal state, and in doing so, you governed the entire interaction. This habit transforms potential conflicts into opportunities to demonstrate strength. It builds a reputation for unshakable composure, and more importantly, it builds your own self-trust. You start to see that you are not a puppet whose strings are pulled by other people's actions. You are the one who holds the strings, and the simple, powerful act of pausing is how you remind yourself of that profound truth every single day. Following that practice of the mindful pause, we encounter a habit that might seem almost contradictory at first glance, yet it is one of the most direct and powerful ways to forge the resilience that underpins silent confidence. This is the deliberate and voluntary pursuit of discomfort. While our modern world is meticulously engineered for ease and convenience, the Stoics, particularly Seneca, actively advised seeking out minor hardships. He wrote that we should practice poverty so that we may know that a person can be just as fierce and unconquered in mind without wealth as with it. The goal here is not self-punishment or a rejection of life's pleasures. It is a form of training, a psychological vaccine that inoculates you against the fear of hardship and breaks your dependency on perfect conditions for your happiness and confidence. Think of it like building a muscle. You wouldn't expect to develop physical strength by only ever lifting feathers. Similarly, you cannot develop mental and emotional fortitude if you spend your entire life meticulously avoiding every possible discomfort. Silent confidence is not the confidence of someone who has never faced a challenge. It is the confidence of someone who knows deep in their bones that they can handle challenges when they arise. And the only way to build that certain knowledge is to periodically test your limits in a controlled, self-directed way. So, what does this look like in daily practice? It's about making small, conscious choices that run counter to your instincts for comfort. It could be taking a cold shower for the final 30 seconds instead of staying under the warm water. It could be choosing to walk or bike for an errand instead of driving on a mildly inconvenient day. It might be skipping a meal and sitting with the sensation of hunger, not out of necessity, but as an exercise in understanding that the feeling is temporary and manageable. Perhaps it's choosing the harder route, like taking the stairs instead of the elevator, or volunteering for a difficult task at work that others are avoiding. Each of these acts is a small declaration of independence. You are telling your own nervous system, I am not a slave to my comforts. My well-being is not dictated by external conditions. I am in charge here. When you voluntarily embrace a cold shower, you are not just enduring the cold, you are actively engaging in a conversation with your own resistance. The initial impulse is to jump out, to seek warmth immediately. But when you choose to stay, you witness a profound shift. The panic subsides, your breathing deepens, and you discover a reservoir of calm within the discomfort. This is a micro lesson with macro implications. It teaches you that the initial attack of an unpleasant feeling, be it cold, hunger, or even social awkwardness, does not have to dictate your actions. You can observe it, breathe through it, and remain steady. This directly translates to life's larger, involuntary hardships. When you face a financial setback, the memory of voluntarily practicing frugality reminds you that you have navigated scarcity before and retained your composure. When you receive bad news, the resilience built through these small exercises gives you the foundational strength to process it without collapsing. This practice also cultivates a profound and genuine appreciation for the comforts you do have. When you voluntarily skip a meal, the next one you eat tastes infinitely more satisfying. When you choose a hard chair over a plush couch for a period of time, returning to the couch feels like a luxury. This breaks the cycle of taking things for granted. Your baseline for happiness shifts. You stop needing more to feel content because you have actively practiced being content with less. Seneca argued that true wealth is poverty with contentment, because a person who is content with little possesses everything, while a person who always desires more is a pauper no matter their bank balance. The confidence that springs from this is incredibly quiet and self-sufficient. You no longer need to display your wealth or your ease to feel secure. Your security comes from the demonstrated knowledge that you can thrive without them. This makes you less manipulative in relationships and less desperate in your career, because your sense of self isn't tied to external validation or material symbols. You engage with the world from a place of choice, not neediness. This is the ultimate expression of the dichotomy of control in action. You are voluntarily engaging with dispreferred indifference, things that are outside your control and that you would normally avoid, not because you desire them, but to prove to yourself that they cannot break you. And in that proof, you find a freedom and a confidence that no amount of external success can ever provide. It is a confidence earned in the quiet moments of personal challenge, a silent strength that prepares you for whatever life may bring. One of the most direct ways to absorb the very mindset we've been exploring is to spend time each day in the company of the masters who codified it. This brings us to our seventh daily habit, the dedicated reading of Stoic texts. This isn't about scholarly analysis or treating their words as historical artifacts. It's about approaching the works of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus as you would a daily manual for mental training or a conversation with a profoundly wise and steady friend. Think of it not as reading for information, but for transformation. The goal is to internalize their wisdom so deeply that it becomes a readily available voice in your own mind when you need it most, providing an immediate perspective shift and a toolkit for navigating any situation with greater equanimity and that quiet internal strength. The power of this habit lies in its consistency. A few minutes each morning, or even during a quiet moment in the evening, spent with meditations or letters from a Stoic, acts as a constant recalibration of your perspective. It's a daily reminder of what truly matters, pulling your focus back from the noisy distractions of modern life and anchoring it in timeless principles. You are essentially giving your mind better raw material to work with. Instead of starting your day with the chaotic and often negative input of news headlines and social media feeds, you are priming your thoughts with reflections on virtue, resilience, and the nature of a good life. This consistent exposure doesn't just inform you intellectually, it begins to rewire your default reactions. When a frustration arises later in the day, you might find a line from Epictetus arising unbidden in your thoughts. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This isn't you trying to remember a quote, it's the embodied wisdom you've been feeding your mind now speaking back to you, offering a handrail in a moment of potential turmoil. This is how silent confidence is built, not through recalling facts, but through the gradual assimilation of a philosophical operating system that prioritizes inner virtue over external validation. Consider the different ways these three core Stoics can speak to your daily life. From Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, you learn the humility and discipline required to wield power without corruption, both power over others and, more importantly, power over yourself. His private journal, Meditations, is a stunningly intimate record of a man constantly coaching himself toward goodness, reminding himself of his duty, and preparing for the inconveniences and betrayals of the day. Reading him feels like being granted access to the inner dialogue of a true leader, teaching you how to lead your own life. From Seneca, you receive the practical advice of a statesman and writer who navigated the turbulent and often dangerous court of Nero. His letters and essays are filled with actionable advice on managing anger, dealing with grief, the wise use of time, and the value of true friendship. He teaches you how to be in the world without being of it, how to engage with wealth and politics without letting them define you. Then there is Epictetus, the former slave, whose teachings, recorded by his student Arion, are perhaps the most direct and bracing of all. He cuts to the heart of the matter with unparalleled clarity, relentlessly focusing on the dichotomy of control and the freedom that comes from distinguishing between what is yours and what is not. His voice is that of a tough but profoundly compassionate coach, pushing you to take radical responsibility for your own judgments and happiness. To make this habit stick, keep the text accessible, a physical book on your nightstand, a digital copy on your phone, and commit to a small, manageable dose. Read just a single passage, a page, or one of Seneca's letters. Don't rush through it. Read it slowly, then pause and reflect on how it applies to a current challenge or a recurring pattern in your life. Ask yourself, how can I live this today? This turns reading from a passive consumption of words into an active engagement with a way of life. The cumulative effect of this daily practice is a deep, resonant confidence that comes from knowing you are not alone in your struggles. You are walking a path that millions have walked before you, guided by some of the most clear-eyed and resilient minds in human history. Their wisdom becomes your own, providing a bedrock of perspective that allows you to face life's uncertainties not with brittle bravado, but with a quiet and unshakable strength that has been earned page by page, day by day. Now we move from preparing for difficulty to a radical shift in how we perceive difficulty itself. This is the eighth habit, a profound practice known as amor fati, a Latin phrase that translates to a love of one's fate. While the phrase was popularized by the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, the core idea is pure Stoicism, a concept that Marcus Aurelius would have wholeheartedly endorsed. He wrote in his Meditations, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. Amor fati is the decision to be that blazing fire." It is the active, deliberate embrace of everything that happens in your life, the good, the bad, the confusing, and even the heartbreaking, not with passive resignation, but with an active acceptance that sees every event, especially the obstacles, as necessary and beneficial fuel for your growth. This isn't about pretending that hardship feels good or that loss isn't painful. It's about changing the narrative you tell yourself about these events from one of victimhood to one of authorship. You stop seeing yourself as someone to whom life is happening, and you start seeing yourself as someone for whom life is unfolding, with every single experience, without exception, contributing to the person you are becoming. Think of a river flowing toward the ocean. An obstacle like a large rock in its path doesn't make the river give up. The river simply accepts the rock as part of its reality and flows around it, over it, or in time even wears it down. The rock, the very obstacle, becomes integral to the river's unique path, its sound, and its strength. Practicing amor fati is learning to flow like that river. When you lose a job you loved, the instinctual narrative is one of catastrophe and injustice. Amor fati asks you to reframe it. This happened for me. What is it making possible that wasn't possible before? Perhaps it's forcing me to finally pursue a skill I've neglected or to build the courage to start my own business. This setback is the necessary push toward a destiny I was too comfortable to chase. When a relationship ends painfully, instead of dwelling on the betrayal or the loss, this habit guides you to think, this heartbreak is carving out a deeper capacity for empathy within me. It is teaching me vital lessons about my own boundaries and what I truly value in a partner. This pain is not a waste, it is the price of wisdom, and I will not squander the lesson. This mental alchemy transforms every obstacle into a hidden opportunity. The confidence this builds is not the loud confidence of someone who has never been knocked down. It is the silent, granite-like confidence of someone who knows with absolute certainty that they cannot be broken by circumstance because they have learned how to use every circumstance, especially the adverse ones, as building blocks. So how do you cultivate this love of fate in your daily life? It begins with a simple but powerful shift in your internal dialogue. Whenever you encounter a frustration, a missed train, a sudden illness, a project cancellation, you consciously interrupt the cycle of complaint and resistance. You literally say to yourself, either out loud or in your mind, I love this. At first, it will feel artificial, even ridiculous. You don't love the traffic jam. You don't love the critical feedback, but the act of saying the words begins to rewire your brain's default setting. It forces your mind to search for the why. Why could I love this? What is the potential benefit here? The traffic jam becomes 20 minutes of unexpected, enforced quiet for an audiobook or your own thoughts. The critical feedback, when stripped of its emotional sting, becomes a precise map of where you need to improve, a gift that your supporters would never be blunt enough to give you. This practice moves you from fighting reality to engaging with it creatively. You stop wasting energy on what should or shouldn't have happened and pour all of your energy into what you can do with what did happen. This is the ultimate expression of the Stoic focus on what is within your control. You cannot control the event, but you have absolute sovereignty over the meaning you assign to it and the action you take in response. By loving your fate, you are not approving of the external event itself. You are affirming your own power to use it, to grow from it, and to weave it into the resilient fabric of your character. This is how you build a confidence that is truly unshakable, because it is a confidence built not on a life of ease, but on a demonstrated ability to find value and purpose in every single twist and turn of the journey. Building upon this transformative mindset of embracing your entire fate, we now turn our attention to one of the most immediate and visible expressions of silent confidence, how we use our words. This leads us to the 9th daily habit, the practice of mindful speech, guided by a powerful Stoic-inspired filter for every single thing we consider saying. In a world saturated with constant communication, where the pressure to have an instant opinion on everything can feel overwhelming, the person who speaks less often stands out not for their silence, but for the weight their words carry when they do choose to speak. This isn't about becoming timid or withholding. It's about cultivating a quiet authority that comes from knowing your words have purpose and integrity. The tool for this is what we can call the Stoic triple filter, a simple but rigorous mental checkpoint you apply in the brief moment before you give voice to a thought. Ask yourself 3 questions in rapid succession. Is what I am about to say true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Let's break down why each part of this filter is so crucial for building that unshakable inner assurance. The first gatekeeper is truth. This seems obvious, but how often do we exaggerate a story to make it more entertaining, or present an assumption as a fact to strengthen our argument? When you commit to speaking only what you know to be true, you are making a profound commitment to personal integrity. You are aligning your external expression with your internal reality. This alignment is a cornerstone of silent confidence because it erases the cognitive dissonance that comes from saying things you don't fully believe. You no longer have to remember your embellishments or defend a position you adopted just for show. The confidence comes from the solid ground of honesty. You know your words are built on a foundation of reality, not on the shifting sands of impression management. It means you can say, "I don't know," with genuine comfort, which is often a far more powerful and confident statement than pretending to have all the answers. The second filter, necessity, is perhaps the most challenging and the one that most directly combats the need for external validation. We are often tempted to speak not because what we have to say is needed, but because we need to be heard, to be seen as smart, funny, or in the know. We interrupt to show we're engaged, we offer unsolicited advice to feel useful, or we gossip to create a sense of social bonding. The question, is this necessary? Forces you to consider the utility of your words for the situation and the other person, not for your own ego. Is your comment going to move the conversation forward, solve a problem, or offer genuine comfort? Or is it just going to fill the air with sound, asserting your presence in the room? When you consistently filter out the unnecessary, something remarkable happens. Your speech becomes more concise and impactful. People begin to lean in when you talk because they have learned that when you open your mouth, it's for a reason. This practice builds silent confidence because it transfers your sense of worth from the frequency of your speech to the quality of your contribution. You stop needing the constant social feedback of being the center of attention and start deriving satisfaction from the precision and effectiveness of your communication. Finally, we have the filter of kindness. Now, the Stoics were practical realists. They weren't advocating for being saccharine sweet or avoiding difficult truths. Sometimes the most necessary and true thing you can say is also hard to hear, but kindness in the Stoic sense is about benevolence and goodwill, the intention to do good for others. It asks, are my words being offered with a constructive purpose, or are they meant to wound, to boast, or to belittle? Passing your words through this filter of kindness prevents you from using speech as a weapon to elevate yourself by putting others down, which is a cheap substitute for genuine confidence. A truly confident person doesn't need to diminish others to feel tall. They can deliver critical feedback with clarity and compassion, focused on improvement rather than punishment. They can resist the easy lure of a witty but cruel remark because their self-worth isn't boosted by another's deflation. Applying this filter daily trains you to see your words not as tools for self-promotion, but as instruments for connection and constructive action. Imagine putting this into practice during a typical work meeting. Someone presents an idea that you immediately see a flaw in. The untrained, ego-driven impulse might be to immediately point out the flaw in a way that demonstrates your superior intellect. But you pause, remembering our earlier habit, and run the thought through the triple filter. Is it true? Yes, you have identified a genuine issue. Is it necessary? Yes, for the success of the project, this flaw needs to be addressed. Is it kind? This is where you refine your approach. The unkind way would be to say, that will never work, and here's why. The kind, confident way would be to say, I see the potential in this direction. To make it even stronger, have we considered how it might be impacted by X challenge? This approach maintains truth and necessity but frames it with benevolence and a shared goal. The result isn't just a better idea, it's a reinforcement of your own character. You leave the interaction knowing you acted with integrity, and others see you as a collaborative and trustworthy presence. This is how mindful speech forges silent confidence. It's a daily discipline that turns every conversation into an opportunity to practice virtue. ensuring that your voice, whenever you choose to use it, becomes a consistent reflection of the strong, calm, and principled person you are building within. This brings us to a cornerstone of Stoic practice, a daily habit that directly targets the very engine of social anxiety and the desperate need for approval. This is the conscious, regular prioritization of character over reputation. In our interconnected world, it's incredibly easy to fall into the trap of living for our likes and follows, to constantly check the social thermometer to see if we are being well received. The Stoics, however, drew a bright, unyielding line between two fundamentally different things: your reputation, which is the impression you make on others, and your character, which is the person you truly are when no one is watching. Your reputation exists in the minds of other people. It is fickle, often inaccurate, and completely outside your control. You can be the kindest, most honest person and still be maliciously slandered. You can act with the utmost integrity and still be misunderstood. Your character, on the other hand, is your internal moral compass, your collection of virtues, your will, and your intentions. This, the Stoics insisted, is the only thing that is truly 100% yours to command. When you wake up and make the deliberate choice to focus your energy on strengthening your character rather than managing your reputation, you are initiating a profound shift in the source of your confidence. Your self-worth is no longer a fluctuating stock price based on public opinion. It becomes a stable, internal asset that you own outright. Consider the powerful implications of this distinction through a modern lens. Imagine you're in a meeting and you have to deliver an inconvenient truth that you know will be unpopular with the team. The path focused on reputation is to stay silent, to nod along, to avoid the discomfort of being the bearer of bad news. You preserve your reputation as a team player in the moment, but at what cost? You have compromised your character, your commitment to honesty, and the long-term good of the project. The path focused on character is to speak the truth clearly and respectfully, accepting that some people may be temporarily annoyed or think less of you. You might sacrifice a bit of your temporary reputation, but you have fortified your character. You go home that night knowing you acted with integrity, and that knowledge builds a quiet, resilient confidence that no amount of social approval can replicate. Or think about social media. The reputation-focused approach is to curate a highlight reel of your life, to post things specifically designed to elicit praise and envy. It feels good for a moment, but it creates a dependency. You need the next hit of validation to feel okay about yourself. The character-focused approach is to use these platforms consciously, perhaps to share genuine work or to connect meaningfully with a few without obsessing over the metrics. Your sense of value comes from the authenticity of the action itself, not from the public's reaction to it. This is the essence of the Stoic advice from Epictetus. If you wish to improve, be content to appear clueless or stupid in extraneous matters. He's telling you to let go of the need to be seen as an expert in everything. Be willing to ask the dumb question. Be willing to admit you don't know. In doing so, you free up immense mental energy that was previously wasted on posturing and image maintenance, and you can redirect all of that focus toward actually learning and improving your character. So how do you make this a daily habit? It starts with a simple morning affirmation or journal prompt. You can write down or simply state to yourself, "Today, my goal is not to be well-liked or admired. My goal is to act with courage, justice, temperance, and wisdom. I will focus on my intentions and my efforts, and I will willingly accept whatever reputation results from that." This sets your internal compass for the day. Then, throughout the day, you create little checkpoints for yourself. Before making a decision, especially a socially charged one, ask, "Am I doing this because it's the right thing to do, or am I doing this to look good?" The choice to eat a healthy lunch is strong if it's for your health character, but weak if the primary motive is to post it for praise reputation. The decision to stay late and help a colleague is virtuous if driven by genuine goodwill character, but draining and resentful if done to earn a hero label from your boss reputation. This constant recalibration trains your brain to seek its rewards internally. The satisfaction shifts from "did they like me" to "did I act according to my principles?" This is where silent confidence truly takes root. A person whose confidence is built on character is unshakable in the face of criticism because their self-assessment isn't based on the critic's words. They can listen, evaluate if there's truth in the feedback to aid their growth, and calmly discard what is mere noise or malice, all without their fundamental sense of self being fractured. They don't need to launch a frantic defense or a counterattack because their worth isn't on trial. This creates a remarkable presence. They are the same person receiving a standing ovation as they are being quietly ignored. Their inner state is not dictated by the external applause or the silence. Their confidence is silent because it is a self-contained system, a deep wellspring of assurance that flows from the unwavering commitment to their own moral progress, a project that is, and always will be, entirely their own. Now, after a day of navigating the world with intention and embracing whatever fate delivered, we arrive at a practice that serves as the perfect anchor for the evening, gently closing the loop on our daily cycle of Stoic habits. This is the 11th habit, the deliberate cultivation of gratitude. While the concept of a gratitude journal may feel familiar in our modern wellness landscape, its Stoic roots run far deeper than a simple feel-good exercise. For the Stoics, and for Marcus Aurelius in particular, gratitude was a profound philosophical practice, a direct antidote to the poison of envy, and a powerful engine for generating the deep-seated contentment that is the very foundation of silent confidence. In his private meditations, the emperor didn't just list grand achievements. He trained himself to find wonder and appreciation in the most ordinary aspects of life. He wrote of being thankful for the blessing of having a good grandfather, a good mother, a good father. He expressed gratitude for his teachers and even for the simple, robust health he generally enjoyed. This wasn't naive positivity. It was a disciplined recognition of the gifts that are so easily overlooked, a conscious effort to see the world not as something that owes him more, but as something that has already given him plenty. The psychological mechanism at work here is incredibly powerful for building that quiet, internal assurance. Envy and comparison are confidence killers of the highest order. When you constantly measure your life, your possessions, and your achievements against those of others, you place your sense of self-worth on a never-ending treadmill. There will always be someone who has more, who seems more successful, or who appears to lead a more exciting life. This comparative mindset creates a perpetual state of lack, a feeling that you are not enough and that you do not have enough. It forces you into a posture of needing and seeking, which is the absolute opposite of silent confidence. A grateful mindset, by contrast, radically shifts your focus from what you lack to what you possess. It moves the source of your satisfaction from external benchmarks to internal appreciation. When you end your day by actively searching for and noting down 3 specific things you're grateful for, you are performing a deliberate act of cognitive restructuring. You are training your brain to scan your environment for assets and blessings, not for deficits and shortcomings. The things you note don't have to be monumental. In fact, finding gratitude in the small and mundane is often the most potent practice. It could be the warmth of the sun on your face during your walk, the taste of a perfectly brewed cup of coffee, the comforting sound of rain against the window, the genuine laughter shared with a friend, or even the simple fact that you made it through a difficult task with your integrity intact. This practice builds confidence in a very specific way. It affirms your own capacity to find goodness and sufficiency in your present reality. You begin to realize that your well-being isn't contingent on the next promotion, the next purchase, or the next social media milestone. It's available to you right now in the countless small gifts that fill your everyday existence. This realization is incredibly empowering. It means you are not a passive victim of circumstance, waiting for life to deliver the conditions for your happiness. You are an active participant who can generate a sense of abundance and contentment through the simple, sovereign act of shifting your attention. The person who is content with what they have carries themselves differently. They are not desperate for the next thing, and that lack of desperation reads as a quiet, magnetic self-assurance. They don't need to broadcast their achievements because their sense of value isn't dependent on public recognition. It's fed by a private, ever-growing ledger of appreciation for the life they are already living. This habit, practiced nightly, slowly but surely dismantles the fragile confidence built on external validation and replaces it with a robust, self-generated confidence built on the unshakable foundation of gratitude. Directly following the practice of gratitude, we come to a habit that acts in real time, the very moment a problem lands in your path. This is the art of obstacle reframing, a dynamic mental maneuver that transforms your relationship with difficulty from one of dread to one of eager engagement. While gratitude helps you appreciate what you have, obstacle reframing equips you to love what you get, even when what you get is a significant setback. The Stoics had a powerful metaphor for this. An obstacle, they said, is not a dead end blocking your path. It is the very path itself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action." What stands in the way becomes the way. This is the core of the concept known today as the obstacle is the way. It's not a passive, grit-your-teeth endurance of hardship. It is an active, creative process of alchemy where you take the raw, leaden material of a problem and transmute it into the gold of personal progress. The moment you encounter a frustration, a failed project, a personal conflict, a financial hiccup, your trained Stoic response is not to ask, "Why is this happening to me?" but to ask with genuine curiosity, "How can this happening for me? What quality is this situation demanding that I develop? Let's make this practical." Imagine you've been working tirelessly on a proposal and it gets rejected. The default, untrained reaction is a cascade of disappointment, self-doubt, and maybe even anger toward the person who rejected it. Your confidence tied to that external outcome takes a direct hit, but if you have cultivated the habit of obstacle reframing, you intercept that emotional spiral. You pause and consciously flip the obstacle on its head. You ask yourself, what is the opportunity here? The rejection itself becomes your training ground. Perhaps it's an opportunity to develop resilience, to practice getting knocked down and getting back up with your spirit undiminished. Maybe it's a chance to cultivate humility, to recognize that your initial idea wasn't perfect and that this feedback is a priceless map for improvement. It could be an invitation to practice patience, understanding that worthwhile achievements often require multiple attempts. Or it might even be a hidden door, forcing you to pivot toward a better direction you were too stubborn or comfortable to see before. The obstacle hasn't changed. The rejection letter is still a rejection, but its meaning and its effect on you have been completely transformed. It is no longer a verdict on your worth. It is a workout for your character. This practice builds silent confidence in a profoundly tangible way. Each time you successfully reframe an obstacle, you are depositing evidence into your own mental bank account, proof that you are not fragile. You are building a track record of navigating difficulty and emerging not just unscathed, but stronger and wiser. This evidence accumulates into a deep, unspoken knowing that you can handle things. This is far more powerful than any external pep talk or motivational quote. It's a confidence built on lived experience, on the demonstrated ability to find the hidden lever in every stumbling block. Consider a more personal scenario, a disagreement with a close friend. The obstacle is the tension and the hurt feelings. Reframing it turns this conflict into an opportunity to practice the virtue of understanding. It becomes a chance to listen more deeply than you speak, to exercise empathy by trying to see the situation from their perspective, and to communicate with a kindness that seeks resolution over victory. Success in this context isn't necessarily the other person immediately agreeing with you. Success is you managing the interaction with grace and integrity, regardless of the outcome. When you walk away from that difficult conversation knowing you acted with compassion and self-control, your confidence grows. You trusted yourself to handle a socially and emotionally complex situation, and that self-trust is the bedrock of silent confidence. The true mastery of this habit comes when you start to welcome obstacles, not just tolerate them. You begin to see them not as random acts of a cruel universe, but as a custom-designed curriculum for your personal development. A difficult person in your life is no longer a nuisance, they are your patience coach. A tight deadline isn't just stress, it's your focus trainer. A period of uncertainty isn't anxiety-inducing, it's your laboratory for cultivating faith and courage. This shift is revolutionary. It means your environment ceases to be a source of constant threat and becomes a perpetual gym for your soul. Your confidence becomes silent because the need to complain, to seek sympathy, or to blame external circumstances simply evaporates. Why would you complain about your workout? You understand that the resistance is what makes you stronger. A person who has internalized this walks through the world with a quiet power that is unmistakable. They meet setbacks with a calm, assessing eye, already looking for the leverage point, the lesson, the hidden door. They don't broadcast their struggles because they don't perceive them as purely negative events to be mourned, but as engaging challenges to be solved and learned from. This reframing turns you from a passive passenger on the journey of life into the active navigator, one who knows that every single detour and roadblock is an integral part of the route, sculpting you into a more resilient, capable, and quietly confident human being with every mile you travel. Following that powerful practice of reframing obstacles, we now turn our attention to the environment we create for our own minds, specifically the information and entertainment we willingly allow through the gates of our perception. This brings us to the 13th daily habit, the practice of mindful consumption. In an age of overwhelming digital noise and relentless information streams, this Stoic discipline is more critical than ever for preserving the quiet clarity that is the bedrock of confidence. The core idea, championed by Seneca, is one of radical simplicity and intentionality. He advised us to avoid the crowd and its distractions, not out of elitism, but out of a profound understanding that our minds are sacred spaces, and what we fill them with directly shapes our thoughts, our anxieties, and our ultimate character. Every piece of sensationalized news, every hour of mindless scrolling, every conversation steeped in gossip or complaint is a form of mental clutter. It's like trying to maintain a perfectly still, clear pond while constantly throwing handfuls of mud into it. The result is a murky, agitated mind, clouded with other people's opinions, fears, and agendas. This internal noise directly erodes confidence because it pulls you out of your own center. You become reactive, tossed about by the latest outrage cycle or the curated perfection of someone else's life, constantly comparing your behind-the-scenes reality to their highlight reel. In this state, it becomes impossible to hear your own inner voice, the very source of your silent assurance. So, what does mindful consumption look like as a daily practice? It begins with a simple audit, a conscious inventory of your informational diet. For one day, just observe without judgment. Notice what you read first thing in the morning. Pay attention to the podcasts you listen to during your commute, the television shows you watch to unwind, the social media accounts you follow, and the conversations you habitually engage in. Ask yourself a version of the Stoic filter. Is this content true? Is it necessary for my growth or well-being? Is it kind or constructive? You will likely discover that a significant portion of what you consume fails one or all of these tests. The 24/7 news cycle, for instance, is often designed to trigger fear and outrage, emotions that are the absolute antithesis of Stoic calm. Social media feeds are frequently engines of envy and social comparison. Mindless entertainment, while sometimes a valid form of rest, can easily cross the line from recharging your batteries into numbing your mind and wasting your most precious resource, time. The practice of mindful consumption is then the deliberate act of curating your inputs based on the quality of mind they produce. It means choosing to read a chapter of a profound book instead of scrolling through a feed of political arguments. It means selecting a podcast that teaches you a new skill or expands your perspective instead of one that merely fuels indignation. It means having the courage to change the subject or gracefully exit a conversation that has devolved into gossip or pointless complaining. This isn't about building an impenetrable bubble of positivity. It's about building a fortress of focus. You are taking conscious control of your attention, which the Stoics considered the essence of the will. By refusing to let your mind become a dumping ground for the world's chaos, you assert your sovereignty. The confidence that flows from this habit is both immediate and cumulative. Immediately, you feel a sense of relief and spaciousness in your own mind. The constant background static of anxiety diminishes because you are no longer feeding it. You have more mental energy available for the things that truly matter: your work, your relationships, your own personal development. Cumulatively, this practice reshapes your entire worldview. When your mind is filled with the wisdom of great thinkers, historical context, and constructive ideas, rather than the day's transient scandals and marketing messages, you begin to operate from a place of deeper understanding. Your perspective lengthens. A minor setback at work doesn't feel like a catastrophe because you have the mental framework to see it in the larger context of your life's journey. This broader, more stable perspective is the essence of silent confidence. You are no longer knocked off balance by every little wave because you are anchored in deeper waters. You can engage with current events without being consumed by them. You can enjoy entertainment without being defined by it. This disciplined approach to consumption makes you a more discerning and self-possessed individual, someone whose calm demeanor comes not from ignorance, but from a carefully guarded and well-nourished mind, a mind clear enough to see what truly is and strong enough to act with purpose. Building on the foundation of a well-curated mind, we now come to a practice that directs that clarity toward purposeful action in the world. This is the 14th daily habit, and it involves deliberately selecting a single Stoic virtue to focus on for the entire day. The 4 cardinal virtues of Stoicism, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, aren't just abstract ideals to be admired from a distance. They are the fundamental building blocks of an excellent character, a kind of moral muscle group that requires daily exercise to grow strong. The power of this habit lies in its laser-like focus. Instead of vaguely hoping to be a good person, you give yourself a specific, actionable mission each morning. You ask yourself, which of these 4 virtues feels most like it needs my attention today? Where is there a gap between my current behavior and my aspirational self? Then you consciously choose one, just one, and make it your thematic guide for the next 24 hours. Your entire day becomes a live workshop for practicing that specific quality, transforming mundane moments into opportunities for moral strength. This consistent alignment between your values and your actions in small, repeatable ways is what forges a confidence that is deeply authentic and completely self-generated. Let's explore what this looks like with each virtue, starting with wisdom. On a day you choose wisdom, your goal isn't to solve all of life's great mysteries. It's to practice practical wisdom or phronses in your daily choices. This means you actively look for moments to pause and apply reasoned judgment instead of reacting on impulse. When you receive a confusing email, instead of firing off a defensive reply, you take a wisdom-focused pause. You consider the sender's possible perspective. You gather more information if needed, and you craft a response that is measured and insightful. When faced with a decision about your finances or your time, you consciously ask, what is the wisest choice here for my long-term well-being, not just my immediate gratification? Every time you do this, you are not just solving a problem, you are building evidence that you can trust your own judgment. This is a profound source of silent confidence. You stop needing others to tell you what to do because you are actively strengthening your own capacity to navigate complexity with a clear and discerning mind. Now consider a day dedicated to courage. Many people mistakenly believe courage is only for soldiers or heroes facing extreme danger. The Stoics saw it differently. For them, courage, or Andrea, was the virtue you exercise every time you face something you fear, no matter how small. On a courage day, you are on the lookout for those tiny moments of fear and you lean into them. It takes courage to voice a dissenting opinion in a meeting when you know yours will be the unpopular one. It takes courage to admit you made a mistake instead of covering it up. It takes courage to set a firm boundary with a person who consistently oversteps, or to have that difficult but necessary conversation you've been avoiding. When you designate a day for courage, you reframe these anxieties not as threats, but as invitations to practice. Each small act of bravery, like speaking up or setting a limit, deposits a tiny bit of steel into your backbone. The cumulative effect is a quiet, unshakable knowledge that you can handle discomfort and stand your ground. Your confidence grows not because you've eliminated fear, but because you have proven to yourself again and again that you can act in spite of it. Then there is justice, which the Stoics defined not just in a legal sense, but as our duty to other people and the community. On a justice-focused day, your mission is to actively look for opportunities to practice fairness, kindness, and contribution in your sphere of influence. This could mean going out of your way to give credit to a coworker for their idea, even if it means you get a little less glory. It might mean consciously listening to someone with a different political view, not to argue, but to truly understand their perspective, an act of intellectual justice. It could be as simple as picking up a piece of litter in the park, fulfilling your duty to the common good. When you make your interactions about something larger than your own self-interest, a subtle but powerful shift occurs. Your sense of self-worth becomes tied to your integrity and your contribution, not to your status or possessions. The confidence that arises from this is calm and generous. You feel good because you are doing good, and that is a reward no one can take from you. You no longer need to assert your importance because your actions demonstrate your value to the whole. Finally, there is temperance or self-discipline. This is the virtue of moderation and self-control, the mastery over your own appetites and impulses. A day of temperance is a day of conscious choice over autopilot. It's the decision to have one less drink than you might want, to turn off the television and read a book instead, to stick to your workout plan even when you feel tired, or to end a scrolling session on your phone after a set time. It's about managing your reactions too, taking a deep breath instead of snapping at a loved one when you're stressed. Every time you exercise this kind of self-command, you are sending a powerful message to your psyche: I am in charge here. This is perhaps the most direct path to silent confidence. When you know you can govern your own desires and emotions, you are no longer a puppet pulled by every passing whim or external provocation. You become the calm center of your own storm. The disciplined person walks with a quiet authority because they have demonstrated to themselves through countless small choices that they are the ultimate authority in their own life. This habit of a daily virtue focus turns philosophy from a theory into a lived reality. It provides a simple, structured way to close the gap between knowing what is good and actually doing it. And with every day you spend deliberately practicing wisdom, courage, justice, or temperance, you are not just having a better day, you are actively constructing a more confident, resilient, and virtuous self, one conscious choice at a time. This next habit is a mental exercise of almost cosmic proportions, one that has the power to instantly dissolve the suffocating weight of a bad day or a seemingly insurmountable problem. It's the practice of perspective-taking, specifically through what the Stoics called the view from above, or in Latin, speculum aeternitatis, the mirror of eternity. This isn't about escapism or denying your present feelings. It's about actively zooming out from the narrow, high-definition close-up of your current crisis to view it from the vast, wide-angle lens of your whole life, or even from the silent expanse of the cosmos itself. When you're stuck in traffic, fuming over a rude comment, or paralyzed by anxiety about a presentation, your field of vision contracts until that single problem fills your entire mental screen. It feels all-consuming, urgent, and massive. The view from above is the conscious decision to pull back that camera, to regain a sense of scale that reveals your problem for what it often truly is: a small, temporary event in the long and winding river of your existence. Marcus Aurelius was a master of this. In the midst of managing a plague, fighting wars on the empire's borders, and dealing with court intrigue, he would repeatedly remind himself to look at the stars. He wasn't stargazing for romance, he was performing a cognitive reset. He was imagining his own struggles and the entire Roman Empire from a point high above the earth, seeing it as a tiny speck in a vast universe. From that vantage point, the petty squabbles of senators, the logistical headaches of supply lines, and even his own imperial power seemed incredibly small and fleeting. This practice didn't make his responsibilities disappear, but it drained them of their toxic urgency and emotional charge, allowing him to address them with a calm, clear mind. Let's bring this down to a practical level you can use today. There are two powerfully effective angles for this perspective shift, and both build a unique form of silent confidence. The first is the deathbed perspective. When you find yourself tangled in anxiety or resentment, press the mental pause button and project yourself forward in time to the very end of your life. Imagine yourself as an old person looking back on this exact moment, on this specific problem you're currently facing. From that future vantage point, ask yourself a simple question: how much will this truly matter? Will you even remember this specific traffic jam, this particular critical email, or this one social slight on your deathbed? Almost certainly the answer is no. What you will remember is the overall quality of your character, the love you gave and received, the times you acted with courage, and the moments you chose kindness over pettiness. This deathbed reframe is a ruthless prioritization tool. It instantly separates the trivial many from the essential few. The confidence it builds is the confidence of knowing you are focusing your limited energy on what truly has lasting significance. You stop sweating the small stuff not because you're lazy, but because you have a clearer, long-term vision of what constitutes a life well lived. The minor irritations and ego bruises simply lose their power to hijack your emotional state. The second, even more expansive angle is the cosmic perspective, the true view from above. This is where you mentally launch yourself out of your own body and life and imagine looking down at the Earth from space. You see the planet, a beautiful blue and white marble hanging in the immense black silence. You see the continents, the oceans, the swirling weather patterns. Then you zoom in, you find your country, your city, your neighborhood, and finally, the very room you are sitting in. You see yourself there, a tiny, temporary being worrying about this one thing. From this cosmic vantage point, the borders we fight over are invisible. The social hierarchies we obsess over are meaningless. Your problem, which felt like a world-ending event moments ago, is now revealed in its true proportion. A minuscule occurrence on a tiny planet in a remote corner of a galaxy that is one of billions. This isn't meant to make you feel insignificant. It's meant to make you feel free. It liberates you from the artificial gravity of your own ego and your socially constructed anxieties. The confidence that arises from this practice is profound and deeply silent. It's the confidence that comes from understanding your true place in the grand scheme of things. You are a part of the universe experiencing itself for a brief moment. This realization doesn't diminish your importance, it elevates your perspective. You begin to see that your primary task isn't to control every outcome or to impress every person, but to play your small, unique part in the cosmic drama with as much grace, virtue, and appreciation as you can muster. Integrating this into your daily routine can be as simple as a 1-minute mental exercise during a moment of stress. When you feel that familiar tension rising, close your eyes if you can and take one deep breath. On the inhale, imagine yourself pulling back from the situation, rising above your desk, your house, your city. On the exhale, hold that expanded view for just a second. See the pettiness of the problem from that higher altitude. Then come back to the present moment. You haven't run away from the issue. You've simply returned to it with a calmer nervous system and a wiser, more proportioned understanding of its actual size. This habit builds a resilience that is rooted not in stubbornness but in wisdom. The person who regularly practices the view from above carries a quiet assurance that is unmistakable. They don't get flustered by office politics because they see the temporary nature of the corporate structure. They aren't devastated by personal criticism because they understand that one person's opinion is a tiny data point in the vast story of their life. Their confidence is silent because it is born from a connection to something infinitely larger than the day's drama. They engage with the world fully, but they are never fully captured by it, always retaining that small, quiet part of themselves that is connected to the stars, to eternity, and to the peaceful knowledge that this too, whatever it is, shall pass. Building on that practice of cosmic perspective which pulls us out to the grand scale, we now turn to a habit that grounds us firmly and beautifully in the immediate physical reality right at our feet. This is the 16th daily practice, mindful walking. While it might sound simple, even mundane, this is a profound exercise in presence, one that Marcus Aurelius himself advised when he urged us to pay attention to the beauty in ordinary things. From the satisfying cracks in baked bread to the graceful way a fig tree blossoms. He wasn't just offering poetic observations, he was prescribing a powerful antidote to the anxious, wandering mind that is so often trapped in reliving the past or worrying about the future. Mindful walking is the deliberate act of taking a walk without a podcast, without a phone call, and sometimes even without a particular destination, with the sole intention of being fully awake to the experience of moving through the world. This is not about getting from point A to point B, it is about the journey itself becoming the point. When you walk in this way, you are not trying to escape your thoughts, but you are giving your busy mind an anchor in the present moment. The rhythm of your breath, the sensation of your feet meeting the ground, the symphony of sounds and sights that you normally filter out. This cultivated presence is the fertile ground in which silent confidence grows, because a person who is fully here, right now, is not plagued by the regrets of yesterday or the fears of tomorrow. Their confidence is not borrowed from past achievements or future potential. It is a quiet assurance that emerges from the simple, undeniable fact of being alive and capable in this very moment. So, how do you transform a routine walk into this kind of Stoic practice? It begins with setting a clear intention before you even take the first step. You decide that for these next 10 or 20 minutes, your primary job is not to solve problems or plan your evening, but to perceive. You start by bringing your awareness inward to the mechanics of your own body. Feel the subtle shift of weight as you lift one foot and place it deliberately ahead of the other. Notice the gentle swing of your arms, the way your hips pivot with each step, the steady expansion and contraction of your lungs as you breathe. This internal focus is the first anchor. It pulls you out of the abstract world of thought and into the tangible reality of your physical self. Then you gently widen your awareness to include the world immediately around you. This is where you actively follow Marcus Aurelius's counsel. Instead of walking down your street on autopilot, lost in a mental to-do list, you consciously look for the small, overlooked beauties. You might notice the intricate pattern of dew on a spiderweb stretched between two fence posts, the way the morning light filters through the leaves of a tree, creating a dappled dance of shadows on the pavement, or the determined resilience of a weed growing through a crack in the concrete. You listen to the layered soundscape, the distant hum of traffic, the chirping of birds, the rustle of leaves in the wind, the crunch of gravel under your shoes. You are not just hearing and seeing, you are receiving the world. This practice of deep sensory engagement is a direct challenge to anxiety. Anxiety thrives in the unseen, unverified future. It feeds on vague possibilities and catastrophic imaginings. But when you are fully immersed in the rich, detailed reality of what is actually happening right here and now, the anxious mind simply has less fuel. There is no room for a frantic narrative about a future meeting when your entire attention is captivated by the stunning purple hue of a flower you've walked past 100 times and never truly seen. The confidence that springs from this habit is subtle but immensely powerful. It's the confidence of self-containment, when you can take a walk and be completely content with the experience of walking itself, without needing to be entertained or productive. You are demonstrating to yourself that you are sufficient. You don't need external stimulation to feel okay. Your own presence, coupled with the simple act of perception, is enough. This realization is incredibly liberating. It means your sense of well-being is not contingent on your circumstances being perfect. Even on a difficult day, you can step outside, take a mindful walk, and find moments of beauty and peace that are entirely independent of your problems. This builds a resilient core that cannot be easily shaken by life's ups and downs. Furthermore, this practice hones your ability to focus. In a world of constant digital distractions, the capacity to direct and hold your attention on a single, simple activity like walking is a form of mental strength. It's like weightlifting for your focus muscle, and a focused mind is a confident mind. It is not easily pulled off course by every passing worry or social distraction. It can remain steady on its chosen path, whether that path is a literal sidewalk or a complex project at work. The person who regularly practices mindful walking carries a calm, collected energy. They seem unhurried even when they are moving with purpose because their attention is not fragmented across a dozen different concerns. They are fully in the room, fully in the conversation, fully in their life. This undivided presence communicates a deep sense of capability and assurance. It says silently but clearly, I am here, I am awake, and I am equal to this moment. And that, perhaps, is the most foundational confidence there is, the quiet trust that you can handle the reality of now, because you have practiced meeting it step by mindful step with your eyes and your heart wide open. And this brings us to a cornerstone of Stoic practice, a habit that acts as the ultimate filter for your daily energy and emotional expenditure. This is the 17th habit, the immediate and unconditional acceptance of what cannot be changed. While famously encapsulated in the modern Serenity Prayer, this principle was the very lifeblood of Stoic philosophy, a rigorous mental discipline that the ancients saw not as passive resignation, but as the most active and empowering choice a person can make. It's the art of swiftly and accurately discerning between the immovable objects of life and the areas where your effort will actually bear fruit, then pouring all of your power into the latter while letting go of the struggle with the former. Every single day, you are presented with 1,000 tiny tests of this principle. The weather on the day of your outdoor event, the traffic jam that makes you late, the sudden illness that derails your plans, the opinions and actions of other people. These are all classic examples of the immovable object. The untrained mind instinctively fights against this reality. We fume, we complain, we scroll through weather apps hoping the forecast will magically change. We honk our horns as if the sound will dissolve the line of cars ahead. We replay conversations in our heads trying to rewrite them. This struggle is like trying to push a river upstream. It exhausts you completely while achieving absolutely nothing. The Stoic habit is to recognize the current of the river for what it is and to stop pushing. You turn your boat and begin to navigate with the current, using your energy to steer rather than to resist. This is not giving up, it is waking up to the true nature of the situation. The confidence this builds is profound. It is the confidence of a master strategist who knows that victory comes not from wasting ammunition on impenetrable fortress walls, but from finding the open gate and focusing all force there. So how do you cultivate this immediate acceptance in the heat of the moment? It begins with developing a lightning-fast internal checkpoint. The moment you encounter a frustration, your trained response is to pause, as we discussed earlier, and ask the pivotal Stoic question, is this within my control? You must be ruthlessly honest with the answer. The color of the sky, the flow of traffic, the fact that it is raining, the stock market's movement, the feedback your boss just gave you, these are all facts. They have already happened or are happening due to forces far beyond your direct command. To argue with a fact is a special kind of madness. It's like arguing with gravity. You can acknowledge it, you can work with it, you can even use it to your advantage, but you cannot wish it away. The moment you label something outside my control, you perform a kind of psychological magic. The emotional charge around it begins to dissipate. The energy you are using to fight the unfightable is suddenly released and becomes available for what you can control. Let's take a powerful example. Imagine you receive a rejection letter for a job you deeply wanted. The fact of the rejection is now in the past. It is an immutable event, as unchangeable as yesterday's sunset. The untrained response is to dwell in despair, to ruminate on why they didn't choose you, to perhaps even feel a surge of anger toward the hiring manager. This is all energy directed at the immovable object, the decision that has already been made. The Stoic, after a moment of natural disappointment, pivots with purpose. They accept the rejection as a fact of life. Then they immediately turn their attention to what remains within their sphere of influence. They can control their response. They can send a gracious thank you email to the interviewer, maintaining a professional bridge for the future. They can control their next action. They can analyze their application and interview performance to identify areas for improvement. They can control their effort. They can apply to 10 new jobs today with renewed vigor. By accepting the no, they free up all their mental and emotional resources to pursue the next yes. This is how acceptance builds silent confidence. You are no longer at the mercy of external events. You become the stable, reliable captain of your own ship, who doesn't waste time cursing the wind but simply adjusts the sails. This practice extends far beyond minor inconveniences into the most challenging territories of life, such as dealing with other people. The actions, words, and opinions of others are perhaps the most common and most painful category of things outside our control. You cannot force your colleague to be more competent, your friend to be more reliable, or a stranger to be more polite. Trying to do so is a recipe for endless frustration and damaged relationships. The Stoic habit is to accept people as they are, not as you wish them to be. This doesn't mean you become a doormat. It means you stop trying to change the unchangeable and instead focus on what you can control. Your own boundaries, your own communication, and your own choice to engage or disengage. If a person is consistently toxic, you can control your decision to limit your exposure to them. If a loved one makes a choice you disagree with, you can control how you express your concern, but you must ultimately accept their right to their own path. This relinquishment of the urge to control others is incredibly liberating. It builds a quiet confidence that comes from self-respect and personal sovereignty. You are not frantically trying to manage the world around you to feel secure. Your security comes from your demonstrated ability to manage yourself, your expectations, and your responses, no matter how others behave. The final layer of this habit is the cultivation of amor fati in real time, loving the acceptance itself. It's one thing to grudgingly tolerate a cancelled flight. It's another to find the hidden opportunity within it. This is where acceptance merges with wisdom. When you accept what cannot be changed, you open yourself up to the possibilities that the new situation presents. The cancelled flight becomes 3 unexpected, quiet hours to read a book you've been neglecting at the airport. The critical feedback you initially resisted becomes, upon acceptance, a clear blueprint for personal growth that your supporters were too kind to point out. The end of a relationship, once accepted as a reality, can become the catalyst for a period of profound self-discovery and independence that never would have occurred otherwise. This is the ultimate confidence booster, the proven ability to not just survive life's curveballs, but to find a way to thrive because of them. It's the knowledge that your well-being is not fragile, that it does not depend on everything going according to a specific, rigid plan. Your plan becomes your ability to adapt, to accept, and to act wisely within the new landscape that life presents. A person who has mastered this habit walks with a different kind of grace. They are not easily flustered or thrown off course. When a problem arises, they don't waste time on "why me?" They quickly assess the lay of the land, accept the new reality without drama, and begin marshalling their resources toward effective action within that reality. Their confidence is silent because it is the confidence of adaptability itself. It says without a word, "I can work with this. I am not defined by my circumstances, but by my response to them. However the river flows, I will find a way to navigate it." This brings us to a habit that feels both incredibly modern and deeply ancient, a practice that directly counteracts one of the greatest drains on our silent confidence in the 21st century. This is the 18th daily habit, the regular digital detox, a conscious and scheduled withdrawal from the constant hum of technology to reclaim the quiet space necessary for true self-possession to grow. We live in a world designed to capture and commodify our attention. Our phones, with their endless streams of notifications, social comparisons, and breaking news, have become extensions of our hands and, more worryingly, our minds. This constant external stimulation creates a form of mental dependency. We become conditioned to look outward for entertainment, for connection, and most dangerously, for validation. Every like, every share, every comment becomes a tiny hit of social affirmation, training us to believe that our worth is something granted by the outside world, measured in digital metrics. The Stoics, of course, didn't have smartphones, but they understood the human tendency to seek ourselves in the reflections of others. Seneca, in his letters, wrote extensively about the vital importance of solitude. He argued that we must retire into ourselves regularly, for it is only in moments of quiet, uninterrupted stillness that we can truly come to know who we are, separate from the roles we play and the masks we wear for society. He warned that a person who is never alone is always in company with a crowd, and a crowd is a fickle mirror in which to see your true self. A digital detox is the modern application of this ancient Stoic solitude. It is the deliberate act of turning off the noisy, crowded digital world so that you can finally hear the one voice that truly matters for your confidence, your own. So, what does a practical, modern Stoic digital detox look like? It doesn't necessarily mean throwing your phone into the ocean or moving to a cabin in the woods forever. It's about creating consistent, non-negotiable pockets of time where you are completely disconnected from the digital hive mind. This could be the first hour after you wake up, a sacred space where you engage in your morning Stoic rituals, your meditation on mortality, your premeditation of challenges, your intention setting without the corrosive effect of checking emails or social media. It could be a dedicated, tech-free lunch break where you eat your meal without a screen, perhaps taking a mindful walk or simply sitting and observing the world around you. For many, the most powerful practice is the last hour or two before bed, creating a buffer zone that allows your nervous system to calm down from the day's digital stimulation and prepares your mind for restful sleep, rather than filling it with the anxiety-inducing light and content of a screen. The key is to schedule these periods as you would any other important appointment. You are making an appointment with yourself, and it is arguably the most important meeting you will have all day. During this time, you are not just avoiding technology, you are actively practicing the art of being with your own thoughts. At first, this can feel uncomfortable, even unsettling. The mind, so accustomed to being fed constant input, may rebel with a frenzy of boredom or anxiety. This initial resistance is precisely the point. It is proof of the dependency you are working to break. Pushing through this discomfort is like a mental strength training session. You are building the muscle of self-containment. The confidence that emerges from this practice is profound and multi-layered. First, it builds what we might call validation independence. When you are not constantly checking for likes or comments, you are forced to generate your own sense of okayness. You begin to evaluate your choices, your work, and your worth based on your own internal standards and values, not on the fluctuating approval of your digital audience. Did you do your work with integrity? Did you act with kindness? Did you make progress on a personal goal? These become your metrics for a successful day, and they are metrics that no algorithm can take away from you. This internal locus of evaluation is the bedrock of silent confidence. You no longer need to post about your achievements to feel they are real, because the satisfaction of the achievement itself is enough. Second, a digital detox creates the mental space for deeper, more original thought. The constant consumption of online content, much of it designed to be reactive and emotional, leaves little room for your own ideas to germinate and grow. In the quiet of a detox, without the opinions of 1,000 bloggers and influencers shouting in your head, you can finally hear your own insights, your own creative solutions, and your own unique perspective on the world. This fosters a confidence in your own mind. You start to trust your own thinking because you are giving it the time and silence it needs to develop. Finally, this practice cultivates a rich inner life. Seneca called his time in solitude a conversation with himself, and he found it to be the most stimulating company of all. When you regularly disconnect from the digital world, you begin to rediscover the resources you already possess within: your imagination, your capacity for reflection, your appreciation for simple sensory experiences. You might find yourself picking up a book you've been meaning to read, journaling beyond a simple gratitude list, or simply sitting and allowing your mind to wander and wonder. This rich inner world becomes a source of endless fascination and resilience. A person with a deep inner life is never truly bored or lonely because they are always in the company of a fascinating and complex self. This self-sufficiency is the ultimate expression of silent confidence. It's a calm, unshakable presence that communicates without a single word that this person is complete unto themselves. They engage with the digital world from a place of choice and purpose, not from a place of need or addiction. They can put their phone down without experiencing phantom vibration syndrome because their sense of connection isn't dependent on a device. It's rooted in a deep and abiding connection to themselves. By regularly scheduling these digital Sabbaths, you are not rejecting technology. You are reclaiming your own humanity, your own attention, and your own sovereign mind, building a confidence that is powered from within, forever free from the need for an external battery or a Wi-Fi signal. Now let's bring our focus to a habit that grounds Stoic principles in one of the most fundamental and frequent activities of our day, the 19th practice, mindful eating. This is about transforming the simple act of consuming a meal from a mindless distraction or an emotional crutch into a deliberate exercise in presence and self-discipline. In a culture where we so often eat while working, watching screens, or scrolling through our phones, food becomes mere fuel to be ingested as quickly as possible, or worse, a source of fleeting comfort to numb difficult feelings. The Stoic approach invites us to see each meal as a microcosm for our entire philosophy, a small but potent training ground for the very virtues that build silent confidence. When you choose to eat with full attention and moderation, you are not just managing your diet, you are actively practicing temperance, one of the 4 cardinal virtues. You are cultivating the ability to observe a desire, whether for more food, for saltier, sweeter tastes, or for the comfort a particular food represents, and to consciously choose your response rather than being automatically controlled by it. This mastery over a small, daily impulse creates a ripple effect of self-trust. If you can sit with a piece of chocolate and decide to savor one square with full presence rather than mindlessly consuming the entire bar while distracted, you are sending a powerful message to your subconscious: I am in command here. This demonstrated self-command in seemingly insignificant moments is what, brick by brick, constructs the foundation for that composed, unshakable confidence when you face much larger life challenges, like a high-stakes negotiation or a personal conflict. To practice this, begin with just one meal a day. For that meal, create a dedicated space free from digital devices, work papers, and other distractions. Before you take the first bite, pause for a moment of gratitude. This isn't merely a polite thanks, it's a stoic reflection on the interconnected chain of effort and nature that brought this nourishment to your plate. The sun, the soil, the farmers, the transporters. This immediate reflection grounds you in reality and pulls you out of the abstract world of your thoughts and into the present sensory experience. Then, as you eat, engage all your senses. Notice the vibrant colors on your plate, the aroma rising from the food, the varied textures as you chew. Put your utensil down between bites. This simple, physical action forces a pace of deliberation, breaking the automatic, hurried cycle of eating. It creates a space for you to check in with your body's actual signals of hunger and fullness, rather than eating until your plate is empty or your emotional need for comfort feels temporarily satiated. This is where you practice the moderation piece. The Stoics weren't ascetics who denied themselves pleasure. They were individuals who sought to enjoy life's gifts without becoming enslaved by them. Mindful eating allows you to truly enjoy a rich dessert by savoring it completely, which often leads to feeling satisfied with less because the pleasure was real and acknowledged, not rushed and unconscious. You are practicing the art of enough when you stand up from a meal feeling nourished and clear-headed rather than sluggish and guilty. You carry that physical and mental clarity with you into your next task. That clear-headed competence is a direct contributor to silent confidence. People sense when someone is grounded and in control of their own impulses, and they respond to that quiet authority. This discipline extends far beyond the dinner table, serving as a powerful metaphor for how we consume not just food, but everything in life: information, entertainment, even relationships. The person who mindlessly consumes junk food is often the same person who mindlessly consumes junk news or engages in superficial, draining social interactions. The practice of mindful eating trains your consumption filter. It builds the mental muscle to ask, is this truly nourishing me, before you ingest anything, be it a snack, a Netflix series, or a conversation. This discernment is a hallmark of wisdom. When you consistently choose what genuinely serves your growth and well-being over what merely offers a quick hit of dopamine, your entire life begins to align with your deeper values. The confidence that emerges from this is not the loud confidence of someone showing off their willpower, but the quiet, integrated confidence of someone whose actions are in harmony with their principles, bite by mindful bite. It's the assurance that comes from knowing you have the self-respect to feed your body and mind with what they truly need to thrive, and the self-discipline to refuse what ultimately diminishes you. This daily, tangible practice in self-governance proves to you in the most basic way that you are the author of your choices, and that is a truth that, once tasted, creates a confidence that resonates through every aspect of your life. This 20th habit serves as the practical bookend to your morning routine, a deliberate act of setting the stage for the day to come before you even close your eyes for the night. Evening preparation is far more than just packing a lunch or choosing an outfit. It is a deeply stoic exercise in asserting control over the small, manageable things so that you can face the large, unpredictable ones with a calm and ready mind. The Stoics understood that a cluttered physical environment often leads to a cluttered mind, and a mind unprepared for potential difficulty is a mind prone to anxiety and reactive rather than proactive responses. By spending just a few minutes each evening preparing for the next day, you are performing a ritual of self-reliance that builds a quiet, anticipatory confidence. You are essentially telling your future self, "I have your back, I have cleared the path as much as I can, and I have armed you with a plan for the challenges that may arise." This transforms the often chaotic transition from sleep to wakefulness into a smooth, purposeful handoff, allowing you to step into your morning not with a frantic scramble, but with the composed demeanor of someone who is already prepared to meet their day. The physical component of this practice is its most tangible aspect, and it works directly on your environment to reduce friction and decision fatigue. Before you retire for the night, take 10 minutes to do what the military calls prepping your gear. Lay out the clothes you will wear, ensuring they are clean and ready. Pack your work bag or your children's backpacks with everything that will be needed, from laptops to permission slips. Prepare your coffee maker, tidy the main living areas, and ensure that your keys, wallet, and phone have a designated home. This might sound trivial, but its psychological impact is profound. When you wake up to a calm, ordered space and a clear plan for your physical needs, you begin your day with a series of small victories instead of a cascade of minor stressors. You avoid the frantic morning search for a missing shoe or a crucial document, moments that can instantly spike your cortisol levels and set a tone of panic and disorganization for the hours that follow. This external order cultivates an internal order. It sends a powerful, non-verbal signal to your subconscious that you are competent and in command of your life's basic logistics. This foundational sense of competence is a critical ingredient for silent confidence. It's the unspoken assurance that you can handle the small things, which in turn builds the belief that you can handle the bigger ones. Yet the true Stoic power of this habit lies in its mental dimension, which directly extends the morning practice of premeditatio malorum into the night. Once your physical preparations are complete, you take a final quiet moment for a brief mental rehearsal. You cast your mind forward to the upcoming day and consciously identify one or two potential friction points. Perhaps you have a difficult conversation scheduled with an employee, or you're giving a presentation to a skeptical audience, or you're facing a complex problem that has been resisting a solution. Instead of simply worrying about these events, you actively walk through them in your imagination. You visualize yourself entering the room, you hear yourself speaking in a calm and measured tone, you envision the other person reacting negatively, and you see yourself responding not with defensiveness but with empathy and firmness. You mentally troubleshoot the presentation's potential technical glitches and rehearse how you would smoothly adapt. This is not negative thinking, it is strategic preparedness. By exposing your mind to the potential challenges in the safe, controlled environment of your evening, you are inoculating yourself against the shock and anxiety you might feel if they were to occur unexpectedly in reality. When you have already lived through a scenario in your mind and seen yourself handling it with composure, the actual event loses its power to intimidate you. You arrive not hoping for the best, but prepared for a range of outcomes, and that preparedness is the very essence of poise. This combined practice of physical and mental preparation embodies the core Stoic principle of focusing on what is within your control. You cannot control the traffic, but you can control having a full tank of gas and leaving 10 minutes early. You cannot control your boss's mood, but you can control having your reports impeccably prepared and rehearsing how you will present them. This division of effort is incredibly empowering. It moves you from a passive state of hoping the world will be kind to you to an active state of ensuring you are ready for the world as it actually is in all its unpredictability. The confidence this builds is not the loud, boisterous confidence of someone who expects everything to go their way. It is the quiet, resilient confidence of the seasoned traveler who checks the weather forecast and packs a raincoat, not because they are certain it will storm, but because they are ready if it does. They can then walk through their day with a light step and an open mind, free from the low-grade anxiety of being caught unprepared. This evening ritual is a final, gentle act of stewardship over your own well-being. It is a way of honoring the coming day and the person you aspire to be within it, ensuring that when you open your eyes in the morning, your first steps are taken not into chaos, but into a world for which you are already thoughtfully prepared. Now we arrive at a habit that might seem deceptively simple, yet it is the very source from which the river of silent confidence flows. This is the 21st practice, the deliberate cultivation of periods of complete, uninterrupted silence. In a world that worships noise, busyness, and constant communication, the act of voluntarily stepping into silence can feel strange, even uncomfortable at first. But the Stoics understood that the space between thoughts, the quiet beneath the noise, is not an empty void. It is the fertile ground where true self-knowledge and unshakable composure are born. This isn't about meditation in a formal, structured sense, though it can certainly include it. It's about something even more fundamental, regularly creating pockets of your day where you are not consuming information, not producing output, and not even engaging in intentional thought. You are simply being, and in that being, you are becoming intimately acquainted with the observer within the part of you that watches the thoughts and feelings arise without being swept away by them. This is the ultimate practice of the dichotomy of control in its most refined form. Your thoughts and emotions will come and go. They are not fully within your command. But your awareness, your capacity to witness them without immediately identifying with them, that is your inner citadel. By practicing silence, you are strengthening the walls of that citadel, building a confidence that comes not from what you do or what you have, but from the profound and unshakable knowledge of who you are at your core. So what does this practice look like in the messy reality of daily life? It begins with a commitment to carve out just 5 or 10 minutes, perhaps once or twice a day, to sit in stillness. You can do this first thing in the morning before the world intrudes, or during a lunch break in your parked car, or in the evening as a way to decompress. The key is to find a place where you can be free from auditory distractions. No podcast, no music, no background television. You simply sit comfortably and with a straight back, and you bring your attention to your breath. You are not trying to stop your thoughts. That is an impossible and frustrating task. Instead, you are practicing the role of a gentle, neutral observer. As thoughts about your to-do list, a recent argument, or a future worry inevitably arise, you don't engage with them, you don't follow their storyline, and you certainly don't judge yourself for having them. You simply notice them, acknowledge their presence as you would a cloud passing in the sky, and gently return your focus to the physical sensation of your breathing. This act of noticing and returning is a rep for your mental muscle. It is the practical training for that mindful pause we discussed earlier. Every time you observe a thought without reacting, you are proving to yourself that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. The confidence that emerges from this consistent practice is perhaps the most authentic and resilient kind. First, it builds what we can call responsibility, the literal ability to choose your response. When you spend time in silence, you become familiar with the internal landscape of your mind. You start to recognize the early warning signs of anger, the quickening pulse, the tightening chest before it erupts into harsh words. You notice the subtle onset of anxiety, the fluttering stomach, the racing mind before it spirals into full-blown panic. This familiarity is power, because you have observed these sensations in the safe laboratory of your silent practice. They lose their ability to hijack you in the heat of a real-world moment. When a colleague says something provocative, instead of your untrained ego launching an immediate counterattack, you can access that inner space of silence you've been cultivating. From that space, you can choose a response that is aligned with your values rather than being a slave to a primitive reaction. This gap, this moment of chosen silence before you speak, is the ultimate display of silent confidence. It communicates a self-possession that is far more powerful than any witty retort or domineering argument. Furthermore, this practice fosters a deep and abiding self-acquaintance that strips away the need for external validation. In the silence, you meet yourself without your job title, your social media persona, or your material possessions. You meet the raw, unadorned self. At first, this can be confronting. You might encounter restlessness, boredom, or even underlying sadness that you normally keep at bay with constant activity. But as you sit with these feelings without judgment, a profound acceptance begins to grow. You realize that you are okay, even with these imperfections and vulnerabilities. You discover a fundamental wholeness that has nothing to do with your achievements or how others perceive you. This self-acquaintance is the antithesis of the fragile ego that is constantly performing for an audience. When you know and accept who you are in the silence, you no longer need the world to constantly reassure you of your worth. Your sense of value becomes intrinsic, built into the very fabric of your being. You can walk into a room full of strangers and feel a quiet assurance, not because you are the most successful or attractive person there, but because you are comfortable in your own skin. You are at home with yourself, and that inner home is a place you carry with you everywhere, a sanctuary of silence that remains undisturbed by the noise of the outside world. This is the final and perhaps most profound step in building silent confidence, the realization that the confidence was never something you had to build from scratch, but something you simply had to uncover by quieting everything else and finally listening to the steady, silent hum of your own true self. And this leads us directly to the 20-second habit, which is about how we show up in our conversations with others, a practice that transforms a simple exchange into a profound exercise in character. This is the discipline of mindful listening, an act that is far more than just not talking. It is the art of giving your complete and undivided attention to another person when they speak, consciously setting aside your own internal monologue, your planned rebuttals, and your desire to impress. In a world where most people are simply waiting for their turn to speak, the person who has cultivated the capacity for deep, receptive listening stands out with a quiet power that is both rare and magnetic. This habit builds a unique form of confidence because it shifts the source of your self-assurance from demonstrating your own intelligence to demonstrating a genuine interest in the world and the people around you. It's the confidence that comes from knowing you don't need to be the center of attention to feel valuable. Your value is expressed through your ability to make others feel truly heard and understood. When you stop trying so hard to be interesting and become genuinely interested, you project a security that is far more compelling than any witty remark or impressive fact you could interject. So, what does this look like in practice, and why is it so challenging? The first and greatest obstacle is our own ego. Our minds are constantly active, especially in conversation. While someone else is sharing their story or their perspective, our internal machinery is often working overtime. We are composing our response, crafting a story that will top theirs, judging their opinion, or mentally cataloging points where we disagree. This is not truly listening. This is a form of intellectual rehearsing where the other person becomes merely a prompt for our own performance. Mindful listening requires you to consciously disarm this mechanism. You make a deliberate choice to silence the internal editor and the internal performer. Your single goal in that moment becomes to understand what the other person is communicating, not just the words they are saying, but the emotion and intention behind them. This means giving them the gift of your full presence. Your body language becomes open and engaged. You maintain soft eye contact. You nod to show you are following. You aren't glancing at your phone or scanning the room for a more interesting conversation. You are offering a quiet, receptive space for their words to land. This undivided attention is a rare commodity, and people can feel it viscerally. When someone feels truly listened to, they feel respected and valued, and this immediately deepens the connection and builds trust. This practice is a direct application of the Stoic virtue of justice, defined as our duty to others. By listening mindfully, you are acknowledging the inherent worth of the other person. You are affirming that their thoughts and feelings matter. It is an act of generosity where you temporarily set aside your own agenda for the sake of understanding theirs. The confidence this builds is the quiet confidence of humility. You are secure enough to not have all the answers immediately, to not need to control the direction of the conversation, and to potentially learn something new or have your own perspective changed. This is the mark of a truly strong and adaptable mind. Think about the difference between two people in a discussion. One is constantly interrupting, finishing your sentences, and steering the topic back to themselves. This person often radiates a fragile, needy confidence that requires constant validation. The other sits back, listens intently, asks clarifying questions like, "What was that experience like for you?" Or "Help me understand your point a bit more," and then, after a thoughtful pause, offers a considered response. This person exudes a calm authority. Their silence is not empty, it is active and powerful. They are gathering data, processing nuance, and formulating a response that is actually relevant to what was just said, rather than a pre-packaged monologue they were waiting to deliver. This quality makes them incredibly effective in negotiations, in leadership, and in personal relationships, because people feel seen and respected in their presence. Furthermore, mindful listening is a phenomenal tool for your own growth and learning. When you are busy planning your response, you are operating from your existing knowledge and biases. You are simply waiting to reaffirm what you already think. But when you are truly listening, you open a channel for new information, different perspectives, and unexpected insights to enter your mind. The person you are speaking with, regardless of their status or expertise, knows something you do not. They have had experiences you haven't had, and they see the world through a unique lens. By listening to understand, you are expanding your own understanding of the human experience and the world at large. This continuous learning fosters a deep, intellectual confidence. You become less dogmatic and more curious. You can engage with opposing viewpoints not as threats to be defeated, but as puzzles to be understood. This doesn't mean you have to agree with everyone, but you develop the capacity to understand why they hold their views, which is a far more powerful and compassionate position. This habit, practiced daily in conversations with your partner, your children, your colleagues, and even strangers, systematically builds a resilient and empathetic confidence. It proves to you that you can navigate social interactions without relying on dominance or performance, and that your quiet presence can be more impactful than the loudest voice in the room. It is the confidence of the deep ocean, which does not need to shout to make its presence known, but whose quiet, receptive depth contains immense power and life. Now we turn to a practice that grounds all of our mental and philosophical training in the tangible reality of the body itself. This is the 23rd habit, the commitment to regular physical activity, not as a pursuit of vanity, but as a profound form of Stoic training. The great philosopher King Marcus Aurelius, despite the immense burdens of ruling an empire, was known to have valued physical exercise, viewing the care of the body as an integral part of his duty. For the Stoic, the body is not a separate entity to be decorated or indulged, but the vessel for the mind and the will, the instrument through which virtue is expressed in the world. When you engage in mindful movement, whether it's a daily walk, a weightlifting session, or a yoga practice, you are doing far more than merely improving your cardiovascular health or muscle tone. You are engaging in a live, physical dialogue with your own limitations and your own capacity for discipline. Each time you choose to move your body with intention, you are building a form of confidence that is deeply rooted in the physical experience of resilience and self-mastery. This isn't the loud confidence of a sculpted physique displayed for approval. It is the silent, earned confidence of knowing you can endure discomfort, overcome inertia, and keep a promise you made to yourself day after day. Consider the powerful parallels between physical training and the core tenets of Stoicism. When you are in the middle of a challenging workout, your mind will inevitably present you with excuses to stop. It will tell you that you are too tired, that the burn is too much, that you can just finish early today. This is the exact same voice that tells you to avoid a difficult conversation, to procrastinate on an important project, or to give in to a temptation that conflicts with your values. The act of pushing through that physical resistance, of taking one more step, completing one more repetition, or holding a pose for 10 more seconds, is a direct training session for your will. You are proving to yourself in the most immediate way possible that you are not a slave to your immediate comfort. You are demonstrating that you can observe the sensation of fatigue or strain without letting it dictate your actions. This tangible victory over your own impulses creates a ripple effect that extends far beyond the gym or the running path. When you later face a mental or emotional challenge, you have a recent physical memory of having overcome a similar internal resistance. You can draw upon the feeling of that final, triumphant rep to remind yourself, "I have endured harder things than this. I have faced discomfort and persisted. I can do this too." The discipline of consistently showing up for your workout, especially on days when you don't feel like it, is a powerful form of self-respect. You are essentially telling yourself through action that your well-being is a non-negotiable priority. This consistent investment in yourself builds a foundational layer of self-trust. You begin to see yourself as a person who follows through, a person who can be relied upon first and foremost by yourself. This reliability is a cornerstone of silent confidence. You no longer need to seek external validation to feel capable, because you have a daily, physical ritual that provides you with concrete evidence of your own capability and commitment. This practice also serves as a powerful metaphor for the Stoic concept of amor fati, of loving your fate. In any physical endeavor, you will inevitably have good days and bad days. Some days your body feels light and strong, and the workout flows effortlessly. Other days it feels heavy and sluggish, and every movement is a struggle. The untrained individual might get discouraged on the bad days, seeing them as failures. The Stoic practitioner, however, learns to embrace both. The easy day is a gift to be enjoyed with gratitude. The difficult day is an even greater gift because it is the day that truly builds fortitude. It is the day that teaches you to find satisfaction not in the external result, a fast time or a heavy weight, but in the quality of your effort itself. On a day when you feel weak but you complete your session with integrity, you have practiced the virtue of courage. When you stick to your plan and avoid overexerting yourself out of pride, you are practicing temperance. This mindset transforms physical activity from a performance into a moving meditation on character. Whether you are lifting weights, running, or simply engaging in a long, mindful walk, the focus shifts from what your body looks like to what your character is becoming through the activity. The confidence that emerges from this is not tied to your physical appearance, which is an external and fleeting thing, but to the enduring strength of your disciplined will. It is a quiet, internal assurance that remains steady regardless of your physical condition, because its source is not the body itself, but the unwavering mind that directs it. Now, we reach a habit that targets one of the most common and paralyzing drains on our mental energy and confidence in modern life, the quagmire of indecision. This is the 24th practice, simplifying decisions by making smaller choices quickly and trusting in your capacity to handle the outcome. A direct application of the Stoic understanding that our suffering lies less in the events themselves and more in the tangled web of judgment we spin around them. We live in a world of overwhelming options, from the trivial, what to stream among thousands of shows, to the significant which job offer to accept. This abundance can create a state of analysis paralysis, where we become so afraid of making the wrong choice that we make no choice at all, or we exhaust ourselves cycling through every possible scenario, seeking a non-existent guarantee of a perfect outcome. The Stoic antidote to this, championed by Epictetus, is to recognize that this mental turmoil is not caused by the decision itself, but by our own judgments about it, the fear of future regret, the overestimation of the stakes, and the desperate desire for a risk-free path. He famously stated, "It's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them." When you find yourself agonizing over a choice, the problem isn't the two paths ahead of you. It's the catastrophic story you are telling yourself about the consequences of choosing one over the other. This habit is about rewriting that story, shifting your focus from achieving a flawless result to taking virtuous action and trusting in your own resilience. The first step in this practice is to apply the dichotomy of control with surgical precision to the decision at hand. Before you get lost in a spiral of pros and cons, you must ask the fundamental question: what aspects of this decision are truly within my power? You have complete control over your intention, your effort, and the process you use to decide. You can gather a reasonable amount of information, you can consult a trusted advisor, and you can align your choice with your core values. What you do not have control over is the ultimate outcome. You cannot control how the market will shift after you start your business. You cannot guarantee a new friend will become a lifelong companion. And you cannot know with absolute certainty that one vacation destination will provide more happiness than another. The moment you accept this boundary, a massive weight lifts. Your goal ceases to be making the right choice in terms of a guaranteed outcome, and becomes making the right choice in terms of the integrity of your decision-making process. Did you act with wisdom and courage? Did you choose in alignment with your character? If the answer is yes, then you have already succeeded, regardless of how things turn out. This reframe is incredibly liberating. It allows you to make a decision, own it fully, and then adapt to whatever results from it, viewing any outcome not as a verdict on your wisdom, but as new data for your ongoing journey. The practical technique for implementing this is to practice making smaller, low-stakes decisions with speed and finality, building the muscle of decisive action. Start with the trivial choices that nonetheless consume mental space throughout your day. What to wear, what to eat for lunch, which route to take to work. Set a timer for 30 seconds and force yourself to decide. The rule is simple: once the choice is made, it is made. You do not second-guess it. You do not lament the road not taken. You simply move forward and engage fully with the chosen path. This trains your brain to break the habit of obsessive deliberation and to trust its initial, reasoned impulse. The Stoics would argue that for most daily matters, any reasonable choice is a good choice, and the energy saved by not deliberating is far more valuable than the marginal benefit of a theoretically perfect selection. This builds a quiet, cumulative confidence because you are proving to yourself dozens of times a day that you are a person who acts. You are building an identity as a decisive individual, not a perpetual ponderer. This self-perception then naturally extends to larger decisions. When faced with a bigger choice, like a career move, you can apply the same principles on a broader scale. You gather essential information. You consult your values. Does this move align with my pursuit of wisdom, courage, justice, or temperance? And then you set a firm deadline for your decision. When that deadline arrives, you choose. You accept that you are making the best decision you can with the information and character you have at this moment, and you commit to it. The confidence comes from the act of committing, from the demonstration of agency. Imperfect action, as the Stoics well knew, is almost always superior to perfect inaction, because action is the realm of life and learning, while inaction is the prison of fear. This entire process is underpinned by the profound trust in your own ability to cope. The root of most indecision is a deep-seated fear that we will not be able to handle a negative outcome. What if I choose the wrong partner? What if I invest in the wrong stock? What if I move to the wrong city? The Stoic response is to premeditate that very outcome, not to scare yourself, but to inoculate yourself. You look at the potential negative consequence and you ask yourself, If this happens, could I handle it? What would I do? And you realize with a calm clarity that you almost certainly could. You have handled difficulties before. You have the resources of your character, your reason, and your resilience to navigate disappointment or unexpected turns. This realization dismantles the power of the wrong choice. It becomes less of a terrifying abyss and more of a manageable detour. When you truly internalize that you can cope with any outcome, the pressure to magically select the one perfect path evaporates. Your confidence becomes silent because it is no longer dependent on everything going right. It is rooted in the unshakable knowledge that you are equipped to deal with things when they go differently than planned. The decisiveness that stems from this is a form of quiet power. It allows you to move through the world with purpose and agility, unburdened by the heavy chains of regret and what-ifs. You make your choice, you pour your energy into making it work, and you accept the results with equanimity, ready to learn, adapt, and choose again. This is the mark of a truly confident individual, not someone who never makes a mistake, but someone who is never paralyzed by the fear of making one. And so we arrive at our final daily ritual, one that serves as the perfect, gentle, close to the cycle of 25 habits, weaving together the threads of the day into the larger tapestry of your life. This is the practice of a bedtime reflection on your progress, a quiet conversation with yourself just before sleep where you consciously shift your focus from what you did or did not accomplish to how you are gradually and consistently becoming. The modern world, and often our own inner critic, demands perfection and instant results. We set a goal and then berate ourselves for every minor stumble along the way, framing each day as a pass or fail test. The Stoic approach, with its profound wisdom for the long game of life, offers a radically different and far more compassionate metric: progress over perfection. As Seneca reflected, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." This bedtime reflection is the practical application of that lifelong learning, a nightly audit not of your performance but of your evolution. It's where you actively look for the subtle, incremental evidence that you are moving in the right direction, building a quiet, earned confidence that is based not on a flawless record, but on the undeniable momentum of getting a little bit stronger, a little bit wiser each and every day. To practice this, find just a few quiet moments as you're settling into bed. The day is over, the lights are low, and the noise has faded. In this peaceful space, instead of mentally replaying your mistakes or anxiously previewing tomorrow's to-do list, you gently guide your thoughts toward a specific kind of inquiry. Ask yourself a version of these questions. Compared to the person I was yesterday or last week or last month, where did I make even a small amount of progress today? Where did I apply one of these Stoic habits, however imperfectly? The key here is to look for the attempt, the intention, and the slight improvement, not the flawless execution. Perhaps you didn't manage a full 30-minute mindful walk, but you did choose to take the stairs instead of the elevator, consciously feeling your feet on each step. That is progress. Maybe you lost your temper in a discussion, but you caught yourself halfway through and managed to lower your voice and re-engage more respectfully. That is a monumental victory in self-awareness. Or perhaps you successfully applied the Stoic triple filter before speaking, pausing to ask if your words were true, necessary, and kind before you sent that difficult email. These are the small, seemingly insignificant moments that, when collected each night, form the bedrock of your transformed character. This practice systematically retrains your brain to scan for evidence of your own growth, rather than for proof of your own inadequacy. The confidence that comes from this is deeply authentic because it is built on a foundation of honest, gentle self-observation. You are not pretending to be perfect. You are acknowledging and celebrating the very real, albeit gradual, process of your own betterment. This nightly ritual also serves as a powerful antidote to the discouragement that can arise when change feels slow. The path of self-improvement is rarely a straight, upward line. It's a winding road with switchbacks, plateaus, and occasional stumbles. If you only measure yourself against the distant, idealized peak of perfection, you will constantly feel like a failure. But when you make it a habit to look back at the path you've already traveled, even if it's just a few feet from where you were yesterday, you gain a vital sense of perspective and encouragement. Think of it like climbing a mountain. If you only stare at the distant summit, the task can feel impossible, and you might be tempted to give up. But if you periodically stop, turn around, and look at the breathtaking view of the valley far below, you are reminded of how far you've already come. That view provides the motivation to take the next 10 steps. Your bedtime reflection is that moment of turning around. You are looking back at the person you used to be, the one who was more reactive, more anxious, more dependent on external validation, and you are gathering concrete evidence of the distance you have created. You remember the time you would have been devastated by a casual criticism, and you note that today, while it stung, you are able to process it without it ruining your entire afternoon. That is progress. You recall the version of yourself that avoided difficult conversations, and you acknowledge that this week you initiated one, even if your voice shook a little. That is progress. This consistent nightly recognition of your own development builds a resilient and self-replenishing form of confidence. Your sense of worth becomes tied to your commitment to the process itself, a process you are demonstrably engaging in rather than to fleeting, perfect outcomes. Ultimately, this final habit embodies the core Stoic commitment to continuous improvement, or in Greek, prokope. The Stoics didn't believe anyone, not even the great sage, was ever truly finished. The goal was not to arrive at a state of perfect static virtue, but to be eternally in motion toward it, always learning, always practicing, always growing. Your bedtime reflection is the daily ceremony that honors this endless, beautiful journey. It is the quiet space where you forgive yourself for today's stumbles because you recognize them as part of the learning process, and you honor yourself for today's efforts because you see them as steps forward on the path. This practice ensures that you go to sleep not with a mind full of regret and anxiety, but with a heart fortified by self-compassion and a quiet, growing belief in your own capacity for change. The confidence that emerges from this is the most silent and powerful of all. It is not the boastful confidence of someone who believes they have it all figured out. It is the humble, unwavering confidence of someone who knows with absolute certainty that they are a work in progress and that they are actively, lovingly, and skillfully participating in their own creation. It is the confidence of the craftsman who admires not a finished masterpiece, but the steady, sure hand that grows more skilled with each passing day, trusting completely in the process and in their own enduring dedication to it. And with that trust, you can close your eyes, release the day, and rest in the peaceful assurance that tomorrow offers yet another beautiful opportunity to continue the work. And so we reach the culmination of this journey, a point not of finality, but of a new beginning. We have walked through 25 distinct yet interconnected daily habits, a comprehensive toolkit drawn from the ancient well of Stoic wisdom. But if there is one single, powerful idea to carry forward from all of this, it is that silent confidence is not a personality trait you are either born with or without. It is not the brittle, performative loudness of someone trying to convince the world and themselves of their own worth. Instead, it is the quiet, magnetic presence of someone who is already convinced because their assurance is built on something far more stable than external success or approval. It is the deep, resonant hum of a life lived in alignment. It is the centeredness that comes from knowing with unshakable certainty that you have the inner resources to meet whatever life presents, not because you have controlled the circumstances, but because you have mastered your responses to them. This is the ultimate gift of these Stoic practices. They forge an inner resilience that remains steadfast regardless of the chaos, criticism, or praise swirling around you. Your confidence becomes a self-contained system powered by your own virtue, your own reasoned choices, and your own unwavering commitment to growth. It speaks volumes not through words, but through a calm demeanor, a thoughtful pause, and a graceful navigation of both obstacle and opportunity. Now, faced with this rich tapestry of 25 habits, the most important step you can take is also the simplest: begin. The sheer number of practices can feel daunting if you try to adopt them all at once, which is precisely why the Stoics themselves emphasize the power of incremental, consistent effort. The path to building this unshakable core is not paved with grand, sweeping gestures, but with small, daily, deliberate choices. So we end not with a daunting to-do list, but with a gentle, powerful invitation. Look back over these habits, let your intuition guide you. Which one resonates most with you right now? Which practice feels like it addresses a current friction point in your life? Perhaps it's the morning ritual of remembering your mortality to instantly clarify your priorities. Maybe it's the commitment to a daily digital detox to reclaim your focus and inner quiet. It could be as straightforward as practicing the mindful pause before you speak, or as profound as choosing to reframe the very next obstacle you encounter as a hidden opportunity. Do not feel you need to master them all. The goal is progress, not perfection. Choose just one single habit to focus on for the next week. Pour your intention into that one practice. Make it your own. When you commit to that one small thing, you set in motion a powerful chain reaction. Each time you successfully pause before reacting, or express genuine gratitude before bed, or take a mindful walk, you are depositing a small stone of self-trust into the foundation of your character. These stones, day by day, habit by habit, begin to accumulate. They interlock and build upon one another, gradually forming the inner citadel the Stoics spoke of, a fortress of mind that cannot be breached by external events. The confidence that emerges from this process is earned. It is not given to you by a promotion, a compliment, or a material possession, and therefore it cannot be taken away by their opposites. It is a confidence that you have built with your own hands through your own consistent daily effort. This is the promise of living in alignment with this timeless wisdom. It is an invitation to stop seeking confidence from the outside in and to start building it from the inside out. It is a journey that leads you home to your strongest, most capable, and most centered self. So take that first step today. Choose one habit and begin. The quiet, unshakable confidence you seek is not a distant destination. It is the beautiful, inevitable result of the path you start walking right now.